What is going on, everyone? It's Mr. Uzi today, and we are going to be taking a look at the CoolerMaster Lite 3.1. Now this is going to be a micro ATX case, and we're going to be putting a micro ATX form factor computer in here. It's not the newest computer, but we're just transferring some stuff because the case that it's currently in, which I'm looking at right now, is just not fit for it. So I'll be building in it, giving you my thoughts, everything that's wrong with this case and things that go right with it as well. So without any further ado, let's open this bad boy up. So I mentioned before that this is a micro ATX case. Part of the micro ATX form factor is that it is smaller if you don't need all the expansion that ATX has to offer, but it's still plenty enough for the average person. So you're not really losing out on features that you were going to use, but you may be losing out on features that you probably weren't going to use, which is the benefit. But if you want to do things like SLI or have a lot of PCI Express slots, or if you want to put a lot of hard drives inside of the case, then maybe micro ATX is not going to be for you. All right, and there's the case. Let's put this box somewhere. I won't trip over it. All right, so let's go ahead and take the foam off. I don't want this resting on the front of the case, so I'll put this over here. All right, so let's take some of this plastic off. And see if there's anything left in the box. All right, everything should be inside of this case here. And from first glance, it looks pretty sleek. Has the red trim on the front. Doesn't have any fans on the top, but this is a micro ATX case. Nothing too crazy is gonna be going in here. But should anything crazy go in here, you have this nice tinted side panel on the side to put all of your glorious PC parts in there. And you're gonna go ahead and peel it right off. All right, there's one. Now I'm gonna save the plastic on the side panel for now because this is glass and it will attract fingerprints while we're building. So that'll be saved for later, probably once the computer's actually fully built. So here we are inside of the case. We have our front IO. Looks like we have ties right here. What do we have in here? Let me get this open. Oh, it looks like you get more trim for the front, top, and bottom. So currently it's red. They give you white right here, and then they give you black as well. So if you wanted to switch those out, you can go ahead and change it to white or black. And then we have it looks like 120 mil in the back. One 120 mil in the back. And then we have enough space for two 120s in the front. Actually, could be 120s, could be 140s. Not quite sure at the moment. We should be good. So in the inside, it still has your drive mounts here. You could put an SSD on top. I think there's only one drive in there, so it's not really a problem. Has a mesh filter on the bottom for the power supply to take in some clean air. And it has a little bit of space behind the motherboard tray, but there's not a whole lot. Like even here, it's maybe a 3/4 of an inch, if even that. But it is a micro ATX case, so you can't really argue too much about how much space you're getting inside of it. So first off, we have to find the bag with the motherboard standoffs, and we're gonna install the motherboard standoffs inside of the case. So we'll just do this. Find where the motherboard standoffs are. So we need one over here for sure. So that should be good. We've installed the standoffs. Now I need to grab the IO shield from the old case. It should just pop out. So there it is. Alright, top to bottom. The IO shield in there. Alright. Now you might want to mount your power supply ahead of time also, just so you know where your cables are going to be and where they're going to end up before you actually put everything in. And that way, if you're going to route anything behind the tray, it'll be easier to do before the motherboard is in and starts taking up a little bit of room as well. And we are ready to mount the motherboard inside of the case. So hopefully this is not as painful as it was last time, and everything should be able to fit in here. But first, before we do that, let's go ahead and take a look at the other side of the motherboard tray. Go ahead and take off this side. And so I was actually wrong. I don't even think it's going to be 3/4 of an inch of room behind the motherboard tray. If there's anything to learn from this video is that if at any point you're getting a new power supply or building a new computer and you're thinking about getting a non-modular power supply, just get a semi-modular, that's even good, or just straight up modular. You'll thank yourself, and probably me and anyone else who's told you that, so much in the long run. We're gonna go ahead and mount the motherboard in, and hopefully this is pretty painless. Alright, I just want to try and not scratch anything on the back of the motherboard. Now it looks like everything's showing or pushing through the actual I/O shield in the back. So let's move these away and find the screws for the motherboard standoffs and screw the motherboard down. Now is the fun part. So motherboard is in, cooler is in. Let's go ahead and start connecting our power cable. So we will need to install, 8-pin is over there. And unfortunately none of this can be routed behind the motherboard tray. So all of this will kind of be just out in the open, like so. The cables are gonna be a problem. We still have to do the front I/O, so let's go ahead and do that now. But we are nearing the complete end of this. All right, so looks like we're done here. Everything's installed. The cables are tucked away as much as they possibly can in a case this small with that many cables. GPU's installed, cooler's installed. As far as building in this case, some things that I ran into are, one, there's no space in the behind the motherboard tray. So if you're going to get a power supply and getting a case like this or any MATX case, try and get modular or semi-modular. It'll save you a lot of space. There's only a little bit of mesh here at the bottom of the intake and a little bit here at the top, but the mesh is very coarse, I would say. It's not gonna really protect against a whole lot of dust, maybe just really big particles, like maybe some hair, but don't expect it to be an all-around dust filter. The bottom mesh for the power supply is actually better meshed than the front. So keep that in mind as well. Keeping in mind the price of this case is somewhere around $40 right now. You're really not, expecting a whole lot from it. You're getting, tempered plastic front cover, tinted a little bit. It is a dust magnet, which I expect the side panel to be as well. But it's a side panel, it's not glass, but it's still see-through. So if you did want to put some RGB strips in and around the case, you had some components you want to show off, you can definitely put those inside of this case, and it would, for the most part, fit. The only issues that I ran into were the power supply and not having enough space behind the motherboard tray. Everything else would fit in here just fine. You could throw another SSD in here. You could throw a longer graphics card in here. You could actually possibly throw in a 240mm radiator in the front. Granted, it won't have very clean intake, but you could throw one in there, and you still have the 120 in the back. And other than that, it's a pretty solid case. In the meantime, I will be running some tests, some thermals, making sure I put everything together the right way and everything boots just like the way it's supposed to. But in the meantime, enjoy.